The other parts that we're supposed to build are what I call widgets. They have really no purpose other than they're a practice part. And you'll often see a lot of these parts are very similar parts in drafting books going back to the turn of the century. I have a book from my grandpa, and he's got all kinds of, you'll see all these shapes in as standard parts that they've been drawing for traditional drafting with straight edge compass and machine all the way through now computerized drawings. So these are all from 4.2 further model creation. They're not very hard, so we'll quickly walk through these. And you'll see we're going to use a combination of additive and subtractive modeling now to model these parts. So next I gotta start a new part, which I've already done. I'm gonna make sure I save this, and I'm gonna again save over my part from last year. So I just called this widget number 1 from activity 4.2. So let's start with a sketch on the XY plane using the rectangle tool, making sure I select the origin as my starting point, and we have a total width of 4 inches by hitting the tab key. Uh, 4 inches by 2.5 inches tall. We'll go ahead and extrude that. A distance of 2.5 inches. And if you have to modify it, my keyboard probably needs new batteries. 2.5 inches there. So there's the full part. If I was starting from a full block, minus the little tab that's kind of sitting on the side. So then from that front face, I'm going to go ahead and draw a little square point, or it's actually what, 1 inch by 1 inch. So that's has that square fully constrained. And then let's do another square 1 inch by 1 inch. And then at the bottom, I'm going to eyeball a rectangle that's, well, let's see, I'd have to do some math, which Inventor likes math, but don't want to do the math just yet. So let's just tab and put in the 1/2 inch height. I'm going to dimension it exactly the way it is on the sheet. So there's a 1/2 inch height, and when I did that, it kind of flipped the rectangle to the bottom. That's no problem. It's not fully constrained yet, so I can actually, should be able to drag that around. And no, I can't. So let's see, we're going to have to go backwards to go forwards then. Sometimes that happens with Inventor. You can't break it, you can always fix things. So let's go ahead and delete that dimension. I'm going to drag this side back up then. And now we'll dimension exactly what we want. We want this side to be 1/2 inch. And we want the distance from each side to be 1/2 inch. This kind of looks like one of the little Spacer Invader dudes from the old Atari game. Once we cut out those missing shapes. So I've got a drawing now fully constrained with 3 squares, or 2 squares and a rectangle at the bottom. And when I go to extrude this, you'll notice I can select all 3 of those profiles to cut. And when you are cutting all the way through, best practice, depending upon your design intent, is probably to cut all. So So we'll go ahead and say OK. And now, if you look back at the widget, I have most of it built. I just have to build that little tab on the side. So again, we'll dimension it the same way it's dimensioned on the drawing. I'll just start with a rectangle. And select the dimension tool. It is 0.75 from that top edge. The dimension itself is the sides itself are 0.25, and it's 1.5 inches wide. And they also show us that it's 1/2 inch from the front edge. So now I have a fully constrained rectangle and I'm ready to extrude. So I'll select that profile and extrude it 0.75 inches. And there's my first widget.